Welcome back to the Holy Discussion, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this deep dive with your friends and press that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Today, we're going to be diving into a story that is just absolutely incredible. And it's about resilience.
Yeah.
It's about the power of faith to transform lives. Mm-hmm. And it really made me think. I'm really excited to kind of unpack it with you today. So
yeah, me too.
Picture this. A woman, we'll call her Sarah, shares her story. It's marked by hardship and abuse and ultimately finding peace and healing through faith.
It's a tough story.
Yeah, her path to that point is anything but easy.
Yeah, it's a winding path, for sure. And that's what makes it so captivating. Sarah's story doesn't shy away from the complexities of trauma, the struggle with doubt, the search for meaning. It's a story that I think will resonate with a lot of people listening because it kind of reflects the challenges that we all face, whether we've gone through these specific trials or simply searching for a deeper connection with something bigger than ourselves.
I think you're right about that. It's kind of like a universal yearning in a way.
Yeah.
And so her story begins with a really difficult childhood. She was born with a very low chance of survival. She lost her mother when she was just 4 years old.
Wow.
And then endured physical abuse at the hands of her stepmother.
It's heartbreaking.
Just heartbreaking. Just even imagining what that must have been like for her.
Absolutely. And, we can talk a little bit more about this later, but the impact of childhood trauma, especially prolonged abuse like this, can be incredibly profound. It often shapes a person's sense of self-worth, their relationships, and their entire outlook on life.
Yeah, and you can really see that playing out in Sarah's story. She talks about feeling invisible. Like nobody truly saw her or heard her pain.
Right.
Not even teachers or counselors.
Right.
Who might have been in a position to help.
Exactly.
And that just makes you wonder, how many people out there are suffering in silence, doesn't it?
It's a stark reminder that abuse often hides in plain sight.
Yeah.
We tend to focus on the physical signs.
Right.
But the emotional and psychological wounds run much deeper, and you're exactly right. They're harder to recognize.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And those unseen scars, it's like they really shaped her early attempts to try to find some freedom and independence.
Yeah.
She talks about getting a job at 15, hoping that would give her some control over her life. But her stepmother's manipulative behavior, it just continued. It's almost like she couldn't break free from that web.
It's a classic pattern.
Yeah.
In abusive relationships. You often see this cycle of control that gets established, and it's incredibly challenging for the victim to break free.
Yeah.
Both physically and emotionally.
Yeah, they get trapped.
Trapped.
And it wasn't just her stepmother, right?
Right.
Like even when she finally moved out and tried to build a life for herself,
yeah,
she encounters similar patterns in other relationships.
Yeah, and this highlights such a crucial point. That cycle of abuse, it can leave these deep-seated vulnerabilities. It's like a pattern that repeats itself. And Sarah's story shows how people who have experienced this kind of trauma can be drawn into unhealthy dynamics, even when they're seeking support, even when they're looking for connection.
Right.
It's subconscious.
Yeah.
It's this pull towards the familiar.
Right.
Even if it's harmful.
It's like there's this pivotal moment in her story where she decides to move out with a coworker. She's determined to protect her young daughter, from experiencing the same cycle of abuse.
Oh, wow.
And it's as if a switch flips inside her. Like she finds this incredible strength and resolve.
That's a turning point, isn't it? It's fascinating how she describes packing her belongings in secret. Yeah. It's just this raw determination driving her. But what I find even more striking is she prays for the first time in her life, even though at this point she doesn't believe in God.
I know. It's almost like this raw, desperate plea for help. She literally says, God, I don't know who you are. I don't even know if you exist, but if you do, please help me. It's almost primal.
Primal scream.
Reaching out to something beyond herself in that moment of absolute despair.
It speaks to that innate human yearning.
Yes.
For something greater than ourselves, a source of strength and guidance, especially when we're up against these overwhelming challenges.
And it's like that instinct to reach for something, anything to hold on to in the storm, right?
Yeah.
And her story takes an even more interesting turn because she moves in with her coworker. And at first things seem okay, but then she discovers that her coworker is involved in what she calls black magic.
Okay.
And Sarah, vulnerable and desperate for answers, starts dabbling in it too.
This part of the journey, I think, sheds light on the various ways people try to find answers and that sense of control when they're going through these times.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even when people are searching for something positive like healing or freedom, they can be led down paths that are ultimately harmful or misguided.
It makes you think about the fine line between seeking answers and falling into those potentially dangerous practices, especially when someone is feeling vulnerable, right?
Absolutely. It's often in those moments of greatest vulnerability
Yeah.
that we're most susceptible to influence, whether it's positive or negative. It's like you're lost in the fog and you're just grasping for anything.
And then just when things seem to be at their darkest, there's this unexpected shift. A high school friend who's become a Christian invites Sarah to a church event.
Okay.
She resists at first,
Yeah.
but something compels her to go, even though she's skeptical.
Here's where we start to see the glimmer of that transformative power
Yeah.
that faith can have. She's still deeply conflicted, but there's a flicker.
Yeah.
There's an openness, a willingness to at least explore something new, something outside her current understanding.
And what I find so powerful is that even before going to this church event, she gets rid of all the things that she acquired that were associated with black magic.
Oh.
She throws it all away at a church nearby. It's almost like a symbolic act.
It's a profound act of surrender, wouldn't you say?
Yeah?
It's like this recognition that something needs to change, even if she can't yet articulate what that change looks like.
It's like cracking open the door.
Just slightly.
Just slightly, right?
Yeah. To this possibility she hadn't considered.
To a possibility she hadn't considered before. It's like taking a leap of faith, even without knowing what you're leaping into.
Exactly. So we left off with Sarah kind of standing on the edge of something new, hesitantly stepping into a church for the first time in her life. What happens next is pretty remarkable.
It really is. She goes to this church event and describes having this profound experience.
Wow.
She talks about accepting Christ and feeling this instant wave of relief wash over her, like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders.
It's so vivid.
It's such a vivid description.
It's interesting how she describes this experience as both physical and spiritual. Yeah. She mentions suffering from really bad chronic back pain for years, like something that doctors couldn't explain, and she said it just vanished after she accepted Christ. I wonder what you make of that.
That's a really powerful detail. I mean, it does make you think about the connection
Right.
between our physical and spiritual selves, right?
Yeah.
I mean, could it be like a psychosomatic response where her emotional shift triggered a physical change? Or is there something more at play here, something beyond our current scientific understanding?
That's a great question. It's a question that's been debated for centuries,
Right.
What's clear is that for Sarah, this experience really seemed to be a catalyst for a deeper exploration of faith.
Right.
She started going to church regularly, and she started thinking about forgiveness, which had been a major struggle for her up to that point.
Yeah, it seems like forgiveness a lot of times requires this real shift in perspective, this willingness to release the anger and the resentment that we hold on to,
Right.
even when it feels justified.
Yeah.
And Sarah's journey with forgiveness, it takes this dramatic turn
Yeah.
when she finally confronts her stepmom.
Wow.
They have this incredible moment of shared forgiveness.
Can you imagine?
Imagine the courage and vulnerability that must have taken.
It's an incredibly moving part of her story. Forgiveness, especially when you're dealing with these deep-seated hurts and betrayals, is rarely easy, but it's also incredibly transformative.
Right.
Studies have shown that forgiveness can lower blood pressure, reduce stress hormones.
Wow.
It literally rewires our brain's response to past hurts, allowing us to move forward with greater peace and freedom.
It makes me think about how holding on to anger and resentment can actually keep us trapped in the past, just replaying the hurt over and over again.
Right.
So forgiveness then almost becomes this act of self-liberation.
Yeah.
It allows us to break free from those chains of the past and embrace a more hopeful future.
I love that. Yeah. It's not just about letting go for the other person's sake. It's about releasing ourselves from the burden of carrying that pain and that anger.
It's like setting yourself free in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
And for Sarah, forgiving her stepmom seems to unlock this cascade of healing and transformation in her life.
Yeah.
It allows her to break free from the anger and bitterness that had been holding her back for so long.
And then if that wasn't enough, there's also this element of what she perceives as divine intervention in her life.
Right.
Remember how when she prayed for help escaping the abuse, she said she never wanted to go back?
Yeah.
Years later, her father reaches out to her and asks to move in with her.
It's quite a turnaround.
Yeah.
And it's not just random chance, right?
Right.
Like her father was prompted by a dream that he had where he believes God showed him the truth about her suffering.
Oh.
So it's as if A higher power orchestrated this reconciliation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's possible for God to work through dreams in that way?
It's an intriguing question, and one that has been pondered by theologians and spiritual seekers for centuries, right?
Yeah.
There are certainly accounts throughout history and across cultures of individuals receiving guidance or inspiration or even warnings through dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we interpret these experiences as divine messages, subconscious promptings, or something else entirely, I think it's clear that dreams can hold profound meaning.
Yeah.
And they can even influence our waking lives.
It makes you wonder about the nature of reality itself, doesn't it?
It does.
Is there a realm beyond what we can perceive with our five senses?
Mm-hmm.
Are there forces at play that we're only beginning to understand?
These are questions that have captivated humanity since, the dawn of consciousness.
Right.
Sarah's story kind of offers us a glimpse into this mysterious realm. It invites us to consider the possibility of a divine hand orchestrating events in our lives.
But even with all these positive changes, it's not like her journey's without its bumps in the road, right? She talks about really struggling with submission to authority, particularly within the church.
Yeah.
And it seems like a contradiction, given her newfound faith, doesn't it?
This is where the lasting impact of her past trauma, I think, really becomes apparent.
Yeah.
Because of the abuse that she endured at the hands of her stepmom.
Right.
An authority figure in her life. She has a hard time trusting anyone in a position of authority.
Right.
Even those who genuinely want to help her.
It's like her past experiences are coloring her perception of the present, creating this conflict between her desire to embrace her faith
Right.
and this deeply ingrained fear of authority figures.
Right.
It must have felt like this constant battle for her.
Trauma can manifest in such complex ways.
Yeah.
And, it takes time, intentional effort to work through these deep-seated wounds.
Right.
Healing's a process, not a destination.
It's not about just erasing the past.
Right.
It's about learning to navigate its echoes in the present. And for Sarah, that process involves a period of stepping back from her church, feeling like she couldn't overcome these internal struggles within that environment.
Okay.
But then, something unexpected happens.
Oh.
That shifts her perspective yet again.
What's that?
She attends a different church, and a guest speaker is there who delivers this message that resonates with her on a profound level.
Wow.
And this speaker talks about the generational nature of abuse.
Interesting.
Explaining how patterns of trauma can be passed down through families, almost like an inheritance that we're unaware of.
Wow.
And it's like a light bulb moment for her.
Yeah.
Suddenly she realizes that the abuse that she suffered wasn't her fault.
Oh.
And that she's not alone in her struggles. She's part of this larger story, one that encompasses generations of pain and resilience.
It's powerful.
It is.
This realization is pivotal.
Yeah.
It allows her to see her experiences through this wider lens, breaking the cycle of blame and shame that often accompanies trauma. She's not broken. Right. She's not defective, but she's carrying the wounds of this legacy that she didn't choose.
Yeah, it's like she's reclaiming her story.
Yeah.
Reframing it as one of survival and resilience.
Yeah.
Rather than just victimhood.
And this reframing empowers her.
Yeah.
To take ownership of her healing journey,
Right.
She begins to understand that she has the power to choose a different path.
Right.
To break free from those patterns of the past.
Yeah.
Create a new future for herself and her daughter.
It's like she's stepping into her own agency, recognizing her inherent strength and resilience.
Exact. She's no longer defined by her past.
Right.
She's choosing to write a new chapter.
Yeah.
One where she's the author.
It's such a powerful image.
Yeah.
But how does she manage to reconcile this newfound understanding with her struggle with authority, especially within the church? How does she navigate that tension?
That's a great question. It really is amazing how those connections, like you said, those generational connections can really shed light on our own personal challenges.
Right. And so with this new awareness, she finds the strength to actually return to her original church.
Wow.
It's as if she's ready to face those old fears, but now armed with a deeper understanding of herself and the impact of her past.
It's like she's ready to rewrite the narrative, not just in her mind, but also in her actions.
It takes courage to go back and face a situation that caused so much pain and anxiety.
It really does. But she's not going back defeated. You know, she's going back with this hard-won wisdom
Yeah.
and a newfound sense of agency.
Right.
This time she's able to see her pastor through a different lens,
Yeah.
not just as an authority figure, but as a potential source of support and guidance.
That's huge. That's a huge shift.
It is.
And so what happens when she goes back? How does that relationship with her pastor evolve?
It's actually quite beautiful. They're able to connect on a deeper level now that she's processed some of her past trauma and fears. And she begins to see her pastor as this mother figure that she had always longed for.
Yeah.
Someone who offers unconditional love and acceptance.
It's like she's finally able to receive the love and support that was always available to her,
Right.
but which her past wounds prevented her from fully accepting.
It's a testament to the healing power of vulnerability, both in ourselves and in our relationships.
Absolutely.
By allowing herself to be seen and understood, Sarah opens the door for genuine connection and healing.
And that sense of love and belonging doesn't just stay within the walls of the church.
Right.
She talks about experiencing this ripple effect in all of her relationships.
That's one of the most remarkable aspects of this whole story, you know. She
Yeah.
talks about this profound shift in her capacity to love others.
Wow.
It's as if the bitterness and resentment that once clouded her vision, they just melted away, replaced by this newfound compassion and empathy.
Yeah, it makes me think about how holding on to anger and resentment can really constrict our hearts. It makes it so difficult to fully love ourselves and others.
Yeah.
So forgiveness then becomes almost like this act of expanding our hearts,
Yes.
creating space for more love and grace to flow through us.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Sarah's story is a powerful example of how healing in one area of our lives can have this ripple effect on all of our relationships.
Yeah.
You know, by confronting her past, forgiving those who hurt her, and learning to love herself more fully, she creates this ripple effect of healing that extends outward and touches the lives of everyone around her.
It's a beautiful reminder that transformation isn't just a personal journey.
Right.
It has the power to inspire and uplift others as well.
Absolutely.
So as we kind of wrap up our deep dive into Sarah's incredible story, I'm curious to hear what resonated with you the most.
Yeah.
What part of her journey sparked something within you?
Was it her resilience in the face of unimaginable hardship, her courageous pursuit of healing and forgiveness? Was it her unwavering faith even in the darkest of times?
Whatever it may be, we hope Sarah's story has inspired you to reflect on your own journey, your own struggles, and your own capacity for transformation.
Remember that healing is a process, not a destination.
Right.
It's a winding path with twists and turns, moments of despair, and moments of profound grace.
Yeah.
And most importantly, you are not alone on this journey. There's strength in vulnerability, power in forgiveness, and hope in the unwavering belief that even in the broken places, beauty can emerge.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into Sarah's incredible story.
It was a pleasure.
We hope you'll continue to explore the transformative power of faith and resilience in your own lives. Until next time, may you find peace, healing, and hope on your journey.